Hey there, welcome back to another video. Just like last time, my name is Nick. Let's jump into it. Got my notes right here, like always. This time, I'm focusing on the 2018-19 season that the Flyers had. You might be thinking, Nick, what happened to the Flyers that season? Is it the fact that they had introduced this guy? Yeah, he already made his NHL debut 2018-2019 season. Is it the fact that February they hosted the Stadium Series game at Lincoln Financial Field versus the Pittsburgh Penguins? Nope, that's not what I'm talking about. They actually set a record that year, and it's not a cool record. It's not like most wins in a season, most shutouts in a season. Definitely didn't win the Stanley Cup that year. Famously, that was the St. Louis Blues, who were the worst team in the league in January. That might be a different video topic. No, the Flyers would go on to set the record for most goalies used in a single season by one team. So, like I said, I got my notes right here. Let's see how they broke that record. So, on October 2nd, 2 days before the regular season even started, they claimed Calvin Pickard off waivers from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, that meant going into opening night, their goalie tandem would be Brian Elliott and Calvin Pickard. On the opening night of the season, Brian Elliott would get the start versus the Vegas Golden Knights, and that would actually be a win for the Flyers, 5-2. Elliott would go on to lose the next two games. So on game 4 of the season, Calvin Pickard would get the start in what would be a 7-4 win for the Flyers over the Ottawa Senators. Elliott and Pickard would go on to split the next 6 games, and they would combine for a record of 2-4. On October 27th, Michael Neuwirth, who was returning from injury, got his first start against the New York Islanders, and that wound up being a blowout. The Islanders won 6-1, and that's just the 11th game of the season. They're already at 3 goalies. After Neuwirth's sole start, the games were again split between Brian Elliott and Calvin Pickard. It was a 9-game stretch, and in that 9 games, the Flyers went 5-2-2. So if you're keeping up with the record there, you're thinking, they're right around, maybe just a little below 500 on the season. They played their 21st game of the season on November 21st, and they would turn to Alex Lyon for his first action of the season. It was a start against the Buffalo Sabres, and after allowing 4 goals in the first period, he was replaced going into the second period by Calvin Pickard. The final score of that game would be 5-2 for the Sabres. So just over a quarter of the way through the season, already at 4 goalies. Pickard would start the next 2 games. He would record a shutout against the Rangers in the first game, and in the second game, Calvin Pickard would allow 4 goals on 6 shots just 12 minutes and 20 seconds into that game. He was pulled and replaced by goalie Anthony Stolarz. Already up to 5 goalies. Still just a couple games past a quarter way through through the season, already at 5 goalies. Pickard would go on to get that loss, the final score would be 6-0. And on November 28th, the Flyers placed Pickard on waivers, and he was claimed by the Arizona Coyotes. Stolarz would go on to start 6 of the next 7 games, and the only rest night for him was taken by Michael Neuwirth. The Flyers played their 32nd game of the season on December 18th, and the starting goalie for this game was Carter Hart, making his NHL debut. I know everything that has been going on with him lately. Back in 2018-19, the hype around Carter Hart was very real. Being a Philadelphia Flyers fan and going to the games, that was all anybody wanted, was because everybody thought he was the goalie of the future. And you can say it's either he had a bad defense in front of him, or maybe he was pulled up early, but it never really worked out for him in Philadelphia. I think they made the playoffs twice while he was the goalie in Philadelphia, and one of them was the bubble playoffs. But it never really panned out. The Flyers would go on to win Hart's debut 3-2 over the Detroit Red Wings. So that's now 6 goalies. On January 2nd, 2019, the Flyers claimed Mike McKenna off waivers from the Vancouver Canucks, who was claimed off of waivers by the Canucks to back up for 2 games. I don't think Mike McKenna ever played a game for the Canucks, but don't worry, he qualifies for my Journeyman series, so stay tuned for a Mike McKenna career video. On January 8th, Game 43 of the season, Mike McKenna made his only appearance in a Flyers uniform in a 5-3 loss to the Capitals. 7 goalies. I can count 7 goalies. For those of you unaware, the NHL season only consists of 82 games, so the halfway point is 41. 2 games over the halfway point, we're already at 7 goalies. On February 19th, 2019, the Flyers traded Anthony Stolarz to the Edmonton Oilers for Cam Talbot, another goalie. And despite being acquired 2 weeks prior, Cam Talbot wouldn't make his first appearance with the Flyers until March 1st. Sorry, I lost that in the notes. It was a 6-3 win over the New Jersey Devils, making him the eighth goalie to play a game for the Philadelphia Flyers in just 65 games. The remainder of the season was split between Carter Hart and Brian Elliott, with Talbot getting a couple starts sprinkled in. But that's it. That's how they got to 8. So now I got the stats, where they finished in the rankings, everything. The Flyers would finish with a record of 37, 37, and 8. Technically, that is NHL 500. They did not make the playoffs, though. They finished 6th in the Metro out of 8 teams. They finished 11th in the Eastern Conference out of 16 teams. And between all 8 goalies, they allowed 281 goals that season, which was the 3rd worst in the league. I did not write down who had the worst. I'm pretty sure Ottawa was below them, and I think the other team might have been Buffalo, but don't hold me to that. Now I have the breakdown of the 8 goalies and their stats, but this will only be their stats for the games they played with the Flyers. So, not to confuse anybody. Carter Hart played 31 games that season, had 16 wins, 13 losses, 1 overtime loss, a goals against average of 2.83, and a save percentage of .917, and had 0 shutouts. Brian Elliott would play 26 games that season, had 11 wins, 11 losses, 1 overtime loss. His goals against was 2.96, and his save percentage was .907, and he had 1 shutout that year. Calvin Pickard played 11 games in the black and orange, had 4 wins, 2 losses, 2 overtime losses, and his goals against was 4.01. He had a save percentage of .863 and recorded that 1 shutout against the Rangers. Anthony Stolarz played 12 games that year for the Flyers, 4 wins, 3 losses, 3 overtime losses, had a goals against of 3.33 and a save percentage of .902 with 1 shutout. Michael Neuwirth only made 7 appearances for the Flyers in net that year, had 1 win, 4 losses, and 1 overtime loss. Had a goals against of 4.27 and a save percentage of .859 with 0 shutouts. And I do believe Michael Neuwirth did not play in the NHL again after that season. He might have made a couple preseason appearances, but as far as regular season, Michael Neuwirth's career was essentially over after this. Cam Talbot played 4 games, had 1 win, 2 losses, 0 overtime losses, had a goals against of 3.70 and a save percentage of .881 with 0 shutouts. Alex Lyon would go on to play the 2 games with recording 1 loss, 0 wins, 0 overtime losses, a goals against of 5.08, and a save percentage of .806 with 0 shutouts. Mike McKenna made his 1 appearance, as previously stated. 0 wins. It was a loss for Mike McKenna. 0 overtime losses. Goals against average of 4.22. Save percentage of .833 and 0 shutouts. So if my math is correct, 3 goalies each only had 1 shutout. That was 3 shutouts for the entire season for the Flyers. Now I kind of have a where are they now of these 8 goalies that I just spent the last about 11 minutes mentioning. Brian Elliott, Michael Neuwirth, and Mike McKenna have all since retired from the NHL. Anthony Stolarz won the Stanley Cup in 2014 with the Florida Panthers and is now the starter in Toronto when he is healthy. Calvin Pickard is a part of the goalie tandem that led Edmonton to 2 straight Stanley Cups appearances. Sorry, that was a weird pause. 2 straight Stanley Cup appearances versus the Florida Panthers. Cam Talbot is currently under contract with the Detroit Red Wings. This past offseason, the offseason that we're in, Alex Lyon signed a contract with the Buffalo Sabres. And Carter Hart currently does not have an NHL contract due to his involvement in the Hockey Canada trial. He is currently on the ineligible list at the time of recording, so that could change, but I'm not sure where he stands. So, that was that record-breaking season for the Flyers. Let me know in the comments what your favorite memory from that season was, if you had one. If not, let me know what you think about the chances of somebody breaking that record. And if you like semi-regular videos about sports, maybe hit that subscribe button for me. Until next time, see you later.